Hey, I'm Matt Hudgens, and he's Dave Mulvaney, and this is Profitability MD. Dave, how you doing today, buddy?
And I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I hear that the heat index is like 111 degrees down there.
It doesn't feel a bit over 110, though.
Is that right? Well, we're in Atlanta. We're 105, so you know.
It's warm, and that is yeah. So I'm enjoying the air conditioning right now.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, hey, this is episode 34, and I wanted to call this. Let's call it the formula for attracting new clients. The formula for attracting new clients.
And the reason it's the formula because it'll work in whatever business you're in.
Whatever business you're in.
You'll apply this formula to your business, you'll be able to attract new clients. So,
yes. So I thought we'd run through a real live case that we're going on. Let me outline what we're talking about, the formula, right? So the formula would be selecting a target market. Who are you trying to help? Compelling your best prospects. Educate and motivate is number 3. And number 4 is making an offer. You got to make an offer, make an irresistible offer.
Sure.
So a quick little background on my father-in-law has Alzheimer's really badly. It's taken a bad turn. He's had it for about 1.5 years, but then in the last 2-3 weeks, it's gone. So we're in need of help, in need of services. So I thought this would be a great example. They live in Auburn, Alabama. I'm in Atlanta. My wife and I are 2 hours away. I got my mother-in-law who obviously lives with my father-in-law, and I have a sister-in-law who's 1 mile away over there in Auburn. But what we're looking for is non-medical. So we don't need a nurse. He's still able to take care of himself. So what I need is, I call it like a babysitting service. I think the official term is like non-medical services. You need somebody to babysit him, maybe take him to the, senior citizens, maybe babysit him while my mother-in-law goes and plays bridge. Those are the type of services. We're not quite where you need the full-fledged nursing, medication, and that type of stuff. But we could get there really rapidly. So that would be the next stage. So how would somebody like that find somebody like me?
Yeah. So right? Just to clarify, we're turning it around. We're saying now that I'm the marketer, or we're the marketers, and we're trying to get to the people who've got parents who are going to struggle, we'll say, with Alzheimer's and dementia and other mind diseases, that we're just going to focus on that for the moment.
Yeah, we'll pretend like we're the owners of that company. We have a company that offers non-medical assistance.
Which is,
how do we find our customers?
I like that, the way you put that, non-medical assistance.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the terms used in the industry.
Probably.
And so let's first start with the target market, because in any industry, the target market is very important. I do believe if you're going to have, number one, if you're going to have a product, you have to have a product worth selling, meaning it's a problem big enough worth solving.
Right.
Let's face it, Alzheimer's is a problem worth solving, and so is dementia and other mind-altering diseases like this. So it is a problem worth solving, but as a business owner, that's a vast market. So now we got to narrow it. And if I were in the driver's seat, I'd want to narrow it to people perhaps that were a little more affluent. And your people. And the reason I say that is because those are the people who are probably less likely to let mom and dad move in with them, mom or dad to move in with them, because they got a little more money. I'd rather have somebody take care of them than I don't want to say an inconvenience, but would be a better suited, while I continue to grow my career, I can have somebody else focus on them in a non-medical fashion.
Right. Well, this is like, so this is where I think target market gets confusing and you need clarity, right? So my father-in-law is your customer, right? But that's not really your target market. Your target market is my mother-in-law, the caretaker who needs help. The target market is me and my wife, whose father-in-law is ill, can't go over there to help. My sister-in-law, who lives a mile away, but she works a lot and travels a lot, so she can't help her mom and dad. So it's almost like, yeah, my father-in-law is the end customer, but they're not. The target market is, you got to get my mother-in-law, you got to get me or my wife or my sister-in-law. That's really your target market. That makes sense?
Oh yeah, and so that's it. Okay, so we know we here. What's first? Let's determine what's the problem. Not the problem of dementia. We know what that
Right.
is. What are
Right.
the problems being faced? The first thing we'd want to do is determine what are the problems being faced in that market between you, your sister, and your mother. What are
Right.
the problems? That's where I would start.
Right. And so the problems would be, all right, so with Alzheimer or dementia is going to be basically taking care of day-to-day stuff. So here's literally what happens is he needs to be watched because he'll escape from the house. Right. I'll make a joke out of it. Right. So he will escape out of the house while my mother-in-law is doing some chores and some neighbor will find him a mile away. Literally, it's happened twice in the last month. Right. Or he'll sneak out of the house and drive. Well, he shouldn't be driving. He doesn't know where he should be. So he needs supervision. Kind of, that's what he needs supervision all the time. You can't really leave him alone anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So, but we don't need medication. We don't need him to get dressed, although we do need to remind him to get dressed. Right. So I'm trying to be funny, but it's also true, right? That he needs to be reminded of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So you're almost, I call it like babysitting services. Right now we're in the babysitting services, right? That you need somebody to watch my father-in-law while my mother-in-law plays bridge. You need somebody that watches my father-in-law while, let's say my mother, she just needs a break whenever she needs a break.
Okay, so let's pause on the babysitting service. So as a copywriter, the one thing, the first thing I would do, you need what you're, as a copywriter, but we're talking about if we're in this business together, we're trying to, as a copywriter, you're never supposed to call somebody's baby ugly.
Right.
Well, call an adult and a baby or babysitting.
Good point.
You're immediately insulting the wife. So we would want to start, if this is what we want to call like a type of sitting, if you will, we probably want to repackage the branding around not calling it babysitting and never referring to those terms. It could be called an hourly friend. You know, that sounds bad. It sounds like something you'd find at a low.
No, but it goes back to non-medical assistance. So, how do you like? I understand what you're saying. It's almost like relief care. So not relief care. Take a break. Recharge your batteries. These are so. There's a whole thing in caregivers that you can look up where caregivers have all this. They get tired, they get exhausted, they need a break, they need to recharge their batteries. So maybe your language is geared towards the caregiver and them loving their, person they're taking care of, but it's still emotionally draining and still need to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, and so you'd want to start with a brand built around something that I'm the surrogate friend. That's not a bad name, by the way, surrogate friend. If you could call your company that. By the way, that this is trademarked on August 14th, 2019. But because that's what you're as a caregiver, because the wife currently is the surrogate, not beyond friend. I mean, they're family and your family, but this person is stepping in, and so you can. As long as your brand name, okay, I'm not saying it's surrogate friend, but matches your target market. Okay, what is a surrogate friend? Well, are you suffering from, the day-to-day taking care of somebody who needs, there's a
constant supervision, constant
regular supervision. Are you struggling because they like to be an escape artist? Because the person that they were when they were younger, they're very independent, and and they want to sneak out. They still think they can run down to the grocery store. And yet that's not safe for others around them, and they need supervision. Well, the last thing you want to have is a babysitter come in. So we have a program that we call the surrogate friend, and I'm just saying that's how.
This is good. So
I would say that's how you can compel them.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting into. So I think that's a great, you got a theme, let's call it a surrogate friend, right? And then we're talking about going down and compelling your prospects and educating and motivating them. So I think you get into the lead magnet, creating informational products, informational white papers, right?
It might be white papers. However, um, it's such an immediate need, a really fast need. Because look at how fast this has happened in your family.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like in a matter of weeks, everything changes, and now we got to find something a little faster. I liken it to the couple who just bought a puppy, and then for 2 weeks they've been trying to house train the dog, and that dog is not house trained, and now they're going, we got to get this. I mean, it's an immediate need.
Well, sometimes, right? So this is interesting. I don't disagree. It's like the emergency tooth care when your root canal with your tooth goes bad, right? You'll pay whatever price to get the pain to go away. But there's also the guy that needs needs a crown that doesn't hurt, because what I'm finding, here's where it gets into. So yeah, there's an immediate need, but then again, we get hesitation or resistance from my mother-in-law. Oh, I think we're okay. We're not going to need help for a while now.
So that's for three-way call. We're doing a two-way Zoom.
Yeah.
I would say I'm Dave. I'm with the surrogate friend. And Matt, I think your mother-in-law needs to be on. Let's do a three-way call. And I think your lead magnet should actually be built in relationship building, especially if the surrogate friend, because this is really, really relationship based. And it's, if I've got a caregiver and there's a tremendous amount of trust needed, I would think if I'm working with, we're trying to create this, I'd be like, we have to create trust. The only way it's got to be face to face. I can't.
Well, right. But what I'm saying is I think you need to back up one more step, which is almost what to expect when you're expecting, right? Think of the pregnancy book. It's almost like what to expect. What phase are you in? That's a good one.
What phase are you in? That would be I would think clarifying the target market.
What phase are you in? I'm thinking this is actually educating your prospect, because you need to educate my mother-in-law what stage he's already in. I think he's further along than she thinks he is. Does that make sense? So there's a resistance. And then there's another part to that. So I think it's almost like, what phase is it in? What to expect, through the phases as it gets worse, right?
Especially if you can use non-medical terms to label the phases, the phases, you would be in a better position again to.
Right. So a great lead magnet would be, how to know what phase, you're in. Or I've seen lead magnets before would be, how do you know it's time for assisted living, right? So we're one stage before assisted living, but assisted living is stage, 4 or 5, right? So we almost need a lead magnet that is, what stage are you in? Or here's the stage, how to tell what stage you're in, right? How to tell what services you need. Because there's a second part to this would be, at first we started talking about, well, Auburn University has a nursing school. Why don't we just hire some, nurse in training to come over and babysit? Now it's a win-win for her. It's kind of like an internship and it'll be less expensive. But what I've come to learn is that might be great, but it's probably going to progress faster than you think it is. And then what happens? Right? So we probably need a bigger company that helps you through the stages, because it could be, we're non-medical today, but it could be medical tomorrow, or it could be help him get dressed, help him take a shower a week from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So part of that is educating my mother-in-law on kind of where are we today, what to expect. You don't know the timing, but you can kind of, signs of the timing, right? That when memory care, it's like short-term memory is the first thing to go. Then it becomes mid-term memory. Then it's long-term memory, right? Then there's also this emotional thing about at first they're confused and congenial, but then they hit this angry stage, which is, by the way, what he's just now hit. He's angry. He knows that he's forgetting stuff. and it's making him mad that he's forgetting he can't go drive and he can't remember what he was supposed to do, right? So it's almost like the stages of grief, right? The stages of the patient, right? So it's almost like now we got 2 or 3 lead magnets.
So this is all on the long-term memory. So it would appear that I don't know the medical side of it, but I mean, your lead magnet could be let's say, I don't know how many stages there are, but let's say there were 5. You could say the 5 stages of long-term memory loss.
Yes.
And so that could
just a memory loss or 5 stages of Alzheimer.
You could, but then you're narrowing yourself away from dementia and other.
Okay.
My
stages of memory care or of memory,
and you want to add the long term in there because short term, everybody look. I can't remember if I wash my hair sometimes and go in the shower.
Right.
But then again, I am 50, so I guess that happens.
Yeah. So it's like the 5 stages of long term memory, right? Memory issues. But then it's going to be there's another lead magnet here that says the stages the patient is going to go through. Right? Which is what I'm talking about, the emotional side for my father-in-law, where he's in the anger stage, almost like what do they call it? The 5 stages of grief or something like that. But we call it the 5 stages of, but that's a second lead magnet or a different lead magnet or a different information, right?
Or even that. So remember the first lead magnet or a lead magnet is to bring somebody to the table to make an offer. I mean, that's ultimately what a lead magnet is to do. It's not necessarily to make an offer to sell. It can also often be just to make an offer to get them to pick up the phone and call you, to make an appointment, a lot of different things. So the first lead magnet, when presented in front of your target market, which would be your mother, you, or your sister, would compel them to make a move. And that initial move would be to educate them in these 5 stages,
right?
And motivate them to make a decision on an offer that you're about to give them. And that offer is demanding a response. Okay.
Yes.
You can do nothing, but if you wait 2 weeks, the whole thing could be different. And so that's where you want a call to action that requires immediate response, because an offer is great, and it's got to be a compelling offer, and it's got to be. And I've heard it said irresistible offer.
Right.
But the best thing about the offer is all marketing should bring every client to a fork in the road. And the fork in the road is simply I either go yes or I either go no. And if you bring them to what does Yogi Berra say? When you reach a fork in the road, take it.
Right.
But it brings them to a fork, and then they have to make a decision. That's what you want to do. And this
right. But I think that's easy. Like I actually think you and I are going through here, what phases are you in, the stages of anger, the stages of the thing, and what type of help might you need in the future. And then here's your compelling offer that make the irresistible offer can be, you need some sort of help. If you don't get it from us, get it somewhere, because what's happening next, you may not be able to handle on your own. Right?
It's where I would, by the way, the get it somewhere else thing. In my opinion, your lead magnet needs to be so strong that in that lead magnet, you position yourself as an expert in your field, but at the same time, you make your competitors indirectly your enemy. And by exposing things they do that would make the client, who the person who's going to become your customer, it would make the client never want to go to them, because the education has actually presented things that they do as wrong. Now, it doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but because it's presented in it's packaged in such a way. For instance, let's say you sell camera lenses, for instance. I'll just say that. I don't know.
No, let's stick on this. I can give you an example here. So this is like a consumer guide, and this would be, here's your lead magnet. So one of the things would be, do you want a firm that sends you a different person every day of the week, or do you want a firm that sends the same caretaker who's establishing a relationship with your father-in-law? There's a distinction, right?
Yeah, it would be a really good distinction, especially if you say, the reason you don't want a new caretaker every week, because all of a sudden things start missing in your house, but you don't know whether it was your husband who lost them, your loved one, or the caretakers who have 5 different caretakers coming in 5 days a week or 7 days a week, 7
Right.
different caretakers. So,
well, there's 2 reasons. One is the trust factor, but the other is the relationship that they've built. The same caretaker knows how to deal with your father-in-law.
that's
Or
why
knows what music he likes. Yeah, it's a relationship.
Because it comes back to the branding. We're the surrogate friend. We are going to become friends with your spouse through these last 5 stages or these last 4 stages.
Right. So now you can have distinctions like that, almost in the what to look for, how to evaluate. Is the company able to handle different stages of memory care issues? Right, because if you just hire the assistant nurse, right, the intern, they're not capable of handling the next stage. So is the company that you're hiring able to handle the multiple stages, right?
So, yes. So now what you're doing is you're pointing arrows at their enemies.
Yeah.
It's important. It's not your enemies, even though they're your competitors. Now you're making the competitor, their enemy. And when you do that, you're pointing arrows at their enemies. They'll shoot the arrows all by themselves.
Right. You're going to make it so blatantly. You make it so blatantly obvious that I'm the one to do business with. We're going to make it so blatantly obvious. Yes, I want somebody who's the same and not multiple. Yes, I want somebody that can handle the multiple stages, right? Maybe there are 2 or 3 others, but it's going to be so obvious that, well, gosh, I do need somebody that, boom. Well, this company does that. And they're the ones that educated me.
And it's usually not even them saying that and they're the ones who educated me. It's usually just, hey, since I want all of these things, things, see, what do you want? When you want that person to be taken care of, that's what you really want. Mm-hmm. You don't want the caretaker. You don't want the surrogate friend. You want the results. Somebody making sure that your father-in-law is okay as he goes through this tough stage if you're not there. And that's what you really
2
want.
results, right? So you want the father-in-law to be taken care of, and you want the mother-in-law to be able to take a break, to get relief. So there are 2 results that we want, right?
And so when you really got to look at what they want, and then all of a sudden you give them, through your lead magnet, you're going to give them everything they want.
Right.
And you're going to expose everything they don't want. When they hit the fork in the road, they don't have to go and look around because they've already found what they want. And
then what would like an irresistible offer, that last stage, maybe an evaluation of some sort. Instead of a free estimate, it's kind of like an evaluation. They would call it.
I wouldn't do any of this because this is medical care. I would say a family, either a family assessment. And if everybody's local, then you meet with the family, perhaps not in the presence of the person, but at the same time, during the time we're having this meeting as a family, I'm going to have one of our caretakers with your father-in-law. Okay, so you're going to do that while you're in this first meeting, which is really going to lock. Because now, what are you doing? You're providing your service in advance of getting the check. So you're proving yourself.
Well, right. So watch. This is awesome. So this reminds me of Joe Polish and his carpet cleaning and the checklist of how to evaluate a carpet cleaner. And when you get there, he didn't do an estimate of carpet cleaning. He kind of had a checklist. He called it it wasn't an evaluation because it wasn't an estimate. It was something else, like a carpet evaluation or something. So you could have the caretaker come and call it a family assessment or call it a loved one assessment or something like that. And they can go through their checklist to tell you what stage we think your father-in-law's in. Here's the services he needs today, but go a little further. Here's the next stages and the next services he will probably need in the very near future, right? Because my mother-in-law may not be thinking that far ahead, right? She's confused. She's overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, you're exactly right. In a week, a month, 2 months, I'm gonna need somebody to give him a shower. He's too big for me to give him a shower.
Yeah, and perhaps those are very very cautious lines, very slow lines to go down, because especially if the spouse, your mother-in-law, is in denial. So you want to go very slowly. You could say, these are the things that are going to be coming in the immediate future. What is the immediate future? It could be next week. It could be next year. But that's the immediate future. We are not, the mind has, does its own thing. So we are letting you know, it could be next week, could be next year, but it's coming. And by having that type of knowledge, your mother-in-law would be able to look at that and go, really, it could be next week? Because
right.
sometimes they don't see it. And until a third-party expert tells them that that's what it could look like, doesn't mean it, just it could.
Right. So now you can back up to the top. I think we got a pretty good thing. We got a target market. So the target market is, the customer is my father-in-law, but really the target market is my mother-in-law, me, my wife, my sister-in-law. Okay. And then we'd say, how to compel your best prospects. We got to have stuff like the 5 stages of memory loss, or the 5 phases of anger for people with memory loss, or a guide to memory loss, a guide to Alzheimer's, right?
Guide to whatever, 7 steps to long-term, the 7 stages of long-term memory loss, something.
There you go. And so that white paper, or those white papers, right, could be something you run a Facebook ad for, something you put on postcards that you work a neighborhood where you think older people live, somewhere. That's where now you got to get that information in front of people like me, my mother-in-law, right, my wife, my sister-in-law. Now, is that a email campaign? Is that a Facebook ad campaign?
How about you make friends with everybody in the 55 plus, who, like the managers running 55 plus communities, and say, hey, I thought some of your people would let you make friends with them. And then now, you explain the 5 stages or 7 stages to that person and say, we've got this entire program as they transition out of here, and feel free to give family members in this. Our lead magnet, and I wouldn't recommend it be a brochure. I mean, for goodness sakes, make a really nice small booklet that looks really professional, so that the lead magnet makes you look like a $100 million company, even if you're a $10 million company.
Yeah.
If
you could do one of those 90-minute books, right? You've done a book before. I've done a book before. You have a 90-minute book. You could have a nicer than, a small booklet, a nicer booklet. So now you've got, select your single target market, compel your best prospects by starting to educate and motivating them. So those steps 2 and 3 are together, where you're educating me, my wife, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, of here are the things what to expect when you're expecting, what are the stages for both him and for his care needs, right? And then you make your irresistible offer, which goes into that. Maybe it's the free family assessment or the free loved one assessment. And that would be a face-to-face or a phone call, but I know you like the face-to-face. And then you could go through and do your checklist evaluation, and here's where we think they are and what kind of care he needs. And here's the next stages and the next care they'll need.
The face-to-face might not be possible. That's where technology is going to be. I mean, what we're doing right now, you're in Atlanta. I'm in
perfect.
That might not even be possible to face-to-face. So.
Right. But, and so with this, I'm all excited here, because I haven't seen this from anybody in Auburn, where my father-in-law lives. Truthfully, I haven't really seen it here in Atlanta. And I've got some suppliers that I deal with. I've got some clients with Alzheimer's or and it's like, nobody's doing this that we just described. All right. But this model of single target market, compel your prospect, educate and motivate, make an irresistible offer. You could apply this to anything. The carpet cleaning, the HVAC, the lighting.
Matt, when you could forget about the memory care. Nobody's doing this.
Nobody.
Why does marketing suck so bad? Why do you go to so many? Because they don't look at it from what is the result that is wanted out of this. I mean, right. It is. For instance, I used this in something I was writing yesterday, and it's not even published yet. I was like, why do you think you see so many pools? People sell pools. They show a family out by the pool and everybody's smiling. Why do they do that? Because people want to be happy. And so they think, oh, I want to be happy. They don't want a pool. They want to be happy. So
you can have a picture of my father-in-law being happy, right? Two elderly care and they're happy. Yes.
That's why surrogate friend, the association is, right. I'm stepping in, but I'm his friend. And that's what, that association is. When you create marketing, you have to reach people. In order to get people to trust you, you must reach people on an emotional level. And the only way to reach people on an emotional level is you have to know the result that they want. And if you can help them get the result they want, you'll get the result you want, which is them as a customer.
Right. And so the results that I would want would be, I want my father-in-law taken care of and want my mother-in-law not overwhelmed. And so that's 2. Number 3 is I don't want to take care of them. No offense. Me and my wife I don't want my sister-in-law to have to take care of them. Right. So those are selfish, but those are truthful. Right. Those are the 4 things we want. Him to taken care of, my mother-in-law not to be overwhelmed, and then none of the kids have time or the ability. I'm not being mean. We all have day jobs, right? We can't.
And there's one other thing that you haven't even mentioned yet that you want as well.
What's that?
Is you want to do this once. You don't want to have to be dealing with hiring somebody again in about 2 months because it's a different stage.
That goes back to, don't you want the company that can handle the different stages? Oh, look at that. You only want to make this decision once. You only want to have to go through this once. It's too stressful. It's too much.
This is too long of a period that you've got enough to worry about through this period. Let us take you from start to finish. We don't know what finish looks like, but that might be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We don't know. But what we will tell you is we'll be there however long start to finish it.
I'm ready to start a surrogate friends business. Let's go. We've got the whole marketing plan right here.
I'm in the old person capital of the world.
Holy smokes. This is a whole marketing plan. We'll knock it out of the park.
And all I can say about that is that's what episode 34 was about. But here's the thing. What so many business owners do is they start with a business plan. Forget the business plan. Figure out who you're going to sell to and do this. Yep. If you do a great marketing plan, you won't have to worry about having investors because you'll have customers.
Right. And this I'm going to circle back around. This is what we do at an event. This is what we would do at an event. You're going to come in, go through the stages, put together your own marketing plan where you'll be able to leave and knock it out of the park. Right. I mean, this is what we do. This is what we teach our people. Right.
Whether you're in air conditioning, whether you're an electrician, whether you're a banker, I don't know about a banker. We don't want any bankers.
I had a dentist this morning.
Unless you own the bank, then we want you. But a dentist, a doctor, a veterinarian, it doesn't matter. An attorney. Whatever you do, if you can take your target market and find out what they really want from your service, the rest is easy. Getting customers is easy once you know, because your marketing will bring them to a fork in the road. You never have to sell if your marketing does all of these things for you. You never have to sell anything. You simply have to ask for the order.
Right. And I'll even go back to what we put together here for this scenario, which is going to be, you're going to make it so we are the obvious choice, right? You got one caretaker that goes through. We've got, you only make the decision once. You're going to go through all the stages. I mean, we would make it as if we are the obvious choice. When would you like to get started? I mean, that's what's going to happen here.
In many cases, because of if you do this offer right, I had it happen with somebody who asked me, I asked, would you like help with this? And their first words out of their mouth were, what's your fee? So we were at the fork in the road, and the first question was, what's your fee? So if you bring people to the fork in the road, in many cases, you don't even have to ask them to buy. They're going to say, well, how do we pay for this, and how much does it cost?
What's the next steps?
Yeah. So here's the next step. And you probably are going to do this in the follow-up meeting. Our fee is $80,000 a day, and
right.
We got a tight target market.
That's pretty good. All right, so let's wrap this up. That was episode 34, the formula for attracting clients. We had single target market, which may or may not be exactly what you think it is. Compel your best prospects, educate and motivate, and then make the offer. And like we said, if we've done our job right, the offer is we're the obvious choice, right? But it's a free evaluation, a free assessment, something.
Whatever. It could also be a purchase. In many cases, that offer at the end is simply just buy now. I mean, you're not actually even saying buy now. People are like, all right.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, what's it take to hire you? You know, they're going to ask that. So, Matt, good. That was a good call today.
I like that. That was fun.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I got 10xprofitblueprint.com, 10xprofitblueprint.com, and then I've got Matt Hudgens over at LinkedIn. How about you?
DavidMulvaney.com. I've got a free course there on how to build marketing out the way you know, to create a compelling message like this. But Matt and I do this, and we have an event coming up. We keep talking about it, and we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comment below if you're interested in that event. Tell us what business you're in and what struggle, you know, what's the one obstacle you're facing right now, so we can either address that at the event or on the next episode.
Sounds perfect, Matt. My friend.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Next time.